Hey guys, Kana here, and today I'm going to showcase a couple great teams and synergistic pairings that you can use in WutheringWaves. But before we get into it, I'd like to explain where these teams came from or why they were selected for this list. But I do want to specify that this video will not go over every single character's mechanic or the way that every single character works, but rather be a general outline of who works well with each other and why. The teams before you highlight and revolve around agreed upon damage dealers, since the name of the game in WutheringWaves is to run a damage dealer, a support, and a character that functions as a buffer or utility while also maintaining some DPS as well. Be aware, however, that any character in this game can function as a damage dealer if you put enough investment and hard work into playing them. But with that in mind, the characters we have on screen currently are Jiyan, and to start, Adult Zhao has the greatest number of potential pairings since he is super flexible and easy to use. Mortefi and Alto increase Jiyan's damage with their outro skills that increase the next Resonator's damage when they come on field, and at the same time they boast some pretty decent damage as well if you choose to invest them as damage dealers too. For supports, Verena is insane for providing a constant damage increase and also healing up the team when possible, but keep in mind that part of the damage increase is locked behind a skill upgrade that you unlock at skill resonator level 2, aka you need to level up this character to 50 if you want the additional damage increase. If you don't own Verena, don't worry, Budget Verena, aka Baiji, is here to save you. Baiji has some of the same effects as Verena, however, in most cases she is a watered down or single target, not AoE affecting version of Verena, which can be troubling at times, but if you like playing risky and like to throw around the term "nah, I'd win," replace Baiji or Verena with Yang Yang and enjoy unlimited energy regeneration on Jiyan with Whispering Breeze, aka Yang Yang's outro skill. From initial tests, running Yang Yang and having any semblance of energy regeneration on Jiyan allows you to permanently keep up his Resonance Liberation, aka his ultimate form, at all times, which feels absolutely amazing. My personal favorite team, and the one that I'm running right now, is Jiyan, Mortefi, and Yang Yang, since most of the difficult content right now is geared towards favoring the people that decided to pull for the limited rate up character. Tougher weekly content like Tower of Adversity currently rewards arrow damage dealers, which effectively makes healing useless in a lot of cases since you overkill or complete stages very quickly without any problems. And that isn't even talking about the major plus to a team like this that involves 4 stars, which is that it frees up your Verena for other teams or activities and I don't have to use up her energy in Tower of Adversity. Of course though, and as you see from my clears right now in the Tower of Adversity, if I ever need healing, typically using something like Verena if I'm really desperate, or Baiji if I can get away with it, as I was able to do so in this case, is definitely my go-to, and by no means do I think I'm a god gamer, so healing is definitely helpful. Encore is one of the most underrated and misunderstood characters that WutheringWaves currently has. Most of the comments I've seen about her, especially early on in the game, revolves around her not being able to parry on her attacks, but none of that really matters the second that you see just how ridiculous her damage is. To complement her, we have Sanhua, who has no competition in being the best hybrid DPS utility pairing since she doesn't need to be on field for long, and she also provides a damage increase to basic attacks. Though the damage increase by itself is already crazy for a character who deals 43% of her total damage specifically through basic attacks, I cannot emphasize how important it is that you don't actually need to stay on field that long for Sanhua and get to play as Encore for longer as a main field DPS. If you don't have Sanhua though, I'd suggest running any other character you have invested in while waiting for your free copy of her on day 5 of your account. But seriously guys, they're perfect for each other. The support section for Encore will look similar to Jiyan because generally speaking, they play about the same. Encore, Jiyan, and all the damage dealers I'm going to be talking about on today's video will definitely want to be on screen for as long as possible. And as a result, the characters that support them best and the reason behind them will kind of overlap in some cases. But let's break it down. Now with Jiyan and Verena, I did mention the attack increase is a big reason for why you would want to pair Verena alongside the Jiyan, but this time you can also argue that you want to spend less time on field with your supports, and that's where Verena Encore shines. Yang Yang on Originite Type 2 is also a very good option if you decide to use her as a pure support as opposed to a hybrid DPS, maybe utility character, since she can heal when pairing this weapon when using this with the healer set. And finally, if you really wanted to, you could consider Jiyan, where her ultimate provides really great grouping and mobbing capabilities, which can then help you clear through multi-enemy instances or fights very quickly. Using a 5-star specifically as a support slot, however, is quite unrealistic unless if you really love her, which I do. But for my personal favorite, Encore, Sanhua, and Verena fit together the best. Now I know this is a team involving 2 5-stars, but since we do have a selector, Verena should be available to most players at the time of this recording. Calcharo is one of the other few characters that the game currently has content fixated towards, and while Jiyan has more of the content currently favoring him, Sephiroth Jr. definitely feels really nice, especially when you're clearing some of the later Tower Viversity floors. Now, to be honest, finding a suitable hybrid partner for Calcharo is tough, but in all seriousness, his best pairing is Jiyan, who is not quite yet in the game. And until she is released, however, Danjin will have to do, since his biggest weakness is being single target and not being able to clump enemies together. Being able to splash a lot of his attacks on top of each other while also having the increased resonance liberation damage on her outro skill is super nice, but it is actually really difficult to justify this upgrade or investment, since you would have to farm out materials using your wave plates on a character who you may not even play unless if you are a diehard Danjin player. And unlike upgrading a character like Mortefi or Sanhua, you will definitely feel the effects of trying to farm out a 5-star character as opposed to a 4-star. An alternative to her is running basically any other character that you have invested, like the Rover, or building and using any of the previously mentioned characters that you may be able to use in different compositions in the future, and at least in those cases you could justify building them so that you can use them for someone like Jiyan, or a future composition if you end up pulling new characters. Surprise, surprise, the supporting lineup for Calcharo will also look similar since he works and plays just like Encore or Jiyan. He's a damage dealer who doesn't want to share time on field. They're all very selfish. They want to spend as much time on field as possible. Verena will always be his go-to pick for support, and Yang allows you to spam his ultimate at a greater frequency, but keep in mind the idea of always taking Yang for energy regeneration is largely dependent on how much energy you actually gain and how effective it is when you're planning out your team. That said, a large share of his damage is from his resonance liberation, so it's not all doom and gloom if you decide to use Yang so you can spam his ultimate and gain more value out of getting his resonance liberation up faster. The team that I found the most comfort when playing alongside Calcharo is Verena and Yang, since most of the time my other DPS, whether that's Jiyan or someone else, can usually take care of themselves even without needing Verena, but I do find that Jiyan or whoever else I decided to steal Verena from could have a higher ceiling if I decided to pair her with them. But like I mentioned before, some floors of the Tower Viversity have things like ranged characters that you need to watch out and swap and heal from, or the additional damage that I get from Verena is just enough for me to clear out or eliminate certain floors without having the Calcharo die or not doing enough damage before the timer runs out. In a sense, I'm splitting the damage to the two teams so that they are more equalized and balanced. And finally, we have the characters that I've spent the most time on. Danjin and Rover both complement each other extremely well and therefore can be each other's hybrid or main DPS depending on which build you have and who you have upgraded more. But to explain the power of this duo, look no further than their matching elements and the abuse that they can utilize through the increases to Havoc damage and the outright insane amount of Havoc damage that both of these characters do. As a special disclaimer, I do want to address the fact that there definitely is a variation of main Rover DPS, where most of his damage is currently found from basic attacks, and therefore a character like Sanhua could be very strong both as the buffer and hybrid DPS if you chose to pair her alongside a basic attacking Havoc Rover, but thanks to the math done by Zajef and the initial calculations done by Pridewind to discover that there are actually 2 potential damage results. I definitely wouldn't discredit the possibility of a main DPS Rover, since they are one of the main DPSs that you get from the start of the game, but it is kind of funny to see just how impactful the different rotations and the different builds are on him, because as you can see right here, one of them does 54,000 damage and the other does 24.2. Danjin also has very good synergy with Verena, but you already knew that, didn't you? Beyond being a huge help in terms of damage increases because of her set and the way that her skills work, she's also a really big quality of life, especially when you're playing someone like Danjin and kind of just doing content in the overworld or any content in general. Now that isn't to say that is a major factor as to why you would want to use Verena, because in all actuality, she does a lot for endgame or difficult content too, but personally I spent most of my time in WutheringWaves playing Danjin, Yang, and Rover. Now this was totally fine, but the moment that I realized I was encountering a lot of content where someone would shoot me from behind or a stray arrow would appear behind one of my summons, I knew that taking a healer like Verena or even a character like Baiji had to be the answer. Now of course, if you are playing WutheringWaves, at some point all that you will be able to do with this character is just dodge and pray that you don't get one shot. However, early when you're trying to squeak out a couple wins or trying to squeak out a little bit of healing before you inevitably get one shot, it feels kind of good. Now, I have to mention her, although, again, I've already warned against this a couple times. But Danjin does also help this fairly single target composition. As always though, whether she is actually worth investing in, or if you're actually such a giga chat that you don't need any healing whatsoever and can run her alongside Rover and Danjin, that's really up for debate. Anyways guys, hope these teams helped. Thank you again for watching. This video was a bit more informative and took a bit more time, but I hope you appreciated it, hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about these teams. I'll probably be making a guide for a character soon. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.